Welcome to the Business Shop Podcast, where our guests speak on meeting the challenges of entrepreneurship, as well as offer tips and advice on business, marketing, technology, and more. Whether you are a newbie or a seasoned professional, this episode is for you. I am your host, Audrey Wiggins. Let's chop it up. Hello, Chop Squad. We have a special guest today, and this is still in the finance area, so don't you run away. Our guest today is Charles Reed, and he's a CPA, Certified Public Accountant, a U.S Tax Court Practitioner, and he's a member of the IRS Advisory Council and the founder of GetPayroll. Okay, so that's a little hint about where we're going today. Mr. Reed's companies have provided full-service payroll services, payroll tax services, and other payroll-related services since 1991. So this guy knows what he's talking about. So listen up. Charles is an accomplished senior executive and entrepreneur with more than 50 years of financial leadership experience in a broad range of industries and author of 4 books, the latest one being the Payroll Book, a guide for small businesses and startups. Charles Reed, thank you for being here today. Welcome to the Business Chop.
Audrey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We already set the stage about what's to come. So go ahead. I don't know if you want to start with a story or reasons why we need to have a payroll service and actually, working with a CPA, all of those finance things.
Sure. I think being one that a CPA is necessary to a small business. If you don't have the skills, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you're missing. Mm-hmm. Payroll is extremely important and will get you into a lot of trouble if you don't do it right. For instance, if you incorporate and you file as an S Corp, which is a very tax-advantaged way to file, if you work in the business, you're an employee and you have to have payroll and you have to have withholding, even if it's just you. So there's a lot of times that we have clients that are just them, but they're on payroll, or just a couple and they're on payroll because of their corporate status and the way they report their taxes. So you have to know those things. Otherwise, you'll run into problems. As a sole entrepreneur, not incorporated, you're never on payroll, and you can't be on payroll because you file on your Schedule C along with your 1040, and you pay your taxes based on that. But small businesses, startups, make some very serious mistakes sometimes that they need to avoid in doing payroll. The first is classification. Are you an employee? Are the people you hire employees, or are they contractors?
Now that seems. I'm sorry, Charles. That's always a trap that we can fall into. That definition of what is an employee versus a contractor. If you can maybe expound on that before you keep going, yeah.
And people do that all the time because it's just easier to write them a check and pay them. Mm-hmm. Don't have to worry about withholding, filing 941s, W-2s, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you do a 1099 at the end of the year, maybe you don't. Well, you don't get to choose as the entrepreneur whether that person's a contractor or an employee. There's a whole body of law, and that law changes. The Trump administration had proposed a change that was supposed to go into effect in March after the election. The Biden administration canceled it and has issued a new proposal on defining an independent contractor. And if that goes into effect, and it probably will, it's going to be very much harder to make people independent contractors.
Wow.
Because one of the phrases in there is if they are integral to your business, what they do is integral to your business, they're an employee. So that you need to know the law and you need to keep up on it. There's 20 common law rules that you should know. They're in my book, and that's what the courts look at. But the regulations that the administration proposes and are part of FLSA are important, and you need that's what the IRS is going to use to classify employees. And if you misclassify employees, it can be extremely expensive in terms of interest and penalties and unpaid taxes and so on, and have put a number of businesses out of business. So you need to be real careful at classifying your people.
Wow. So how does that affect us? Because there's cases like people, they hire like Fiverr, they outsource to different companies to do different things. Even sometimes your graphic work, you may, hire a company to do graphics, or your advertising agency and their business. I can remember one of my clients, because I did all their graphics and things, that her accountant had her, they wanted to know my social security number. Of course, I don't use that. I use an EIN. So I gave that to them. So they wanted to give me a 1099. So they were trying to cover, they were in title agency. So they're trying to cover themselves for that. So how do we know, or what should we do to make sure for those types of instances? We have all of this, what is it? The virtual assistants that people are hiring that's very popular to use.
All those things tend to be independent contractors because they do work for a lot of people, advertising agencies, graphic artists, and so on and so forth. But for instance, Michael, who works for me, is my videographer. He does all the blogs and writes the scripts and does all the shooting and so on and so forth. He's an employee, pure and simple. He works for me full time.
Okay.
If they're out there and they put themselves forth to the public and have a number of clients, and they have their own skill set, their own tools, their own office, they're probably an independent contractor. Now, if you are an independent contractor, you want an EIN and you want to get a 1099. You don't want them to give you a W-2. So you give them an I-9 with your company name and your company EIN, and that's who they make their checks and payments to. And that just goes on to your income tax return, whether it be a 1040 or an 1120 corporate return, however you're set up. But yeah, you want to not have W-2s if you're an independent contractor, because that will just cause you grief later on, and they will be withholding the money that you may or may not have to pay in. You don't want to give the government an interest-free loan if you don't have to.
Absolutely, like with our regular tax returns every year, millions of government loans.
You should not be planning on a refund.
Mm-hmm.
There are times it's nice. I'll be honest. I used it in the very beginning as a forced savings account when I was very young, and I remember the first year I was married, and I married a woman with children. Okay. I bought her a new washing machine with the income tax refund. Now, you think that's a bad present, but if you've got 5 kids, a washing machine is a wonderful thing to have.
Oh, yeah. I am sure. I'm single, no kids. It's a gift for me.
Ruth had 5 children when I married her. So,
That's beautiful.
I claim insanity, but we were married for 45 years till she passed. So it worked.
Well, that's beautiful. Awesome. Thanks for sharing a little personal piece there. Oh, gosh. So let's get back to the top 5 tips I'm looking here to avoid.
When you're doing payroll, there's some things you need. First of all, you need to know what you don't know. So you need to investigate, read my book, whatever, or get a payroll company. But the biggest single source of payroll penalties is arithmetic mistakes. The arithmetic on the forms is wrong. They're not added or multiplied correctly. That's the biggest source of mistakes. The next one is failing to make a deposit and failing to make a deposit on time. Because if you are 1 second late, there's a 2% penalty. Literally, 1 second will cost you 2% of that deposit as a penalty. Now, the IRS will normally forgive the first penalty, but not the second one. The next 2 of the 5 are failure to file and failure to file timely. You've got to know what you need to file and when you need to file it. You mail it a day late, there's a penalty. Even if you don't owe anything, if you file it late, there's a penalty. So those 5 things, arithmetic, depositing on time, filing and depositing, those are the 5 biggest things that small businesses miss and cause errors and cause penalties and interest. By using a service bureau like us, you just eliminate all those.
Okay.
We've got software, very sophisticated software. It doesn't make arithmetic errors. If it does, I've got a company I'm going to sue.
Absolutely.
And then we take the responsibility of making sure things are deposited on time, the correct deposits are made, filed on time, and the correct forms are filed, federal, state, local. So you just don't have to worry about those things. When I first started, and I was doing accounting as well as a CPA, you can't imagine how many times there were problems. And the reason we moved into doing it for our clients, we'd tell them what to do. We'd even write them the checks to deposit, and they'd put them in a drawer and forget about them.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, all the time. So, and I'm going to give you, for your listeners, another huge tip that the IRS will never admit to you.
Uh-oh.
The IRS cannot penalize you for a simple mistake. They can only penalize you for gross negligence.
Okay.
But who defines gross negligence?
Right. That was about to be my question.
The IRS. So anytime you have a problem with the IRS, and the IRS makes millions of mistakes every year. Believe me, I see them all the time.
Okay.
Literally billions of dollars worth of mistakes. They abate literally billions or tens of billions of dollars of penalties and interest every year when they're challenged on them because they're wrong.
Wow.
If you make a mistake, or if the IRS alleges you made a mistake, you need to appeal it, and appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal. And there's a whole range of appeals, and they go all up through, including tax court. And you want to avail yourself of these, because all you have to do is find one person that says, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And abates it. So it's like sales. It's a whole series of no's followed by a single yes.
Oh, okay.
And when you get that yes, say thank you very much and go away.
Exactly.
Don't argue anymore. So if you get a notice, you want to write a letter back. If you get the same notice a week later, you want to write them back. You want to file, you want to call, you want to talk to people, you want to appeal it. You go up and up and up and up and up. You don't. No, frankly, if it's $10, just write the check.
You're right.
It's not worth your time.
But, yeah, you're right, because your hourly rate is going to be way more than that.
Exactly. And again, if you use a service bureau, we do this for our clients. We fix those IRS mistakes. We're specialists at it. Compliance is our real reason for existence, is to make sure that our clients are in complete compliance with the rules at the federal and the state and the local levels, and that everything's done properly. And then as a CPA, I take a 2848, which is a limited power of attorney, which allows me to advocate for my clients directly with the IRS and fight for them. Because if it's your taxes, it's personal, and you will get upset and you will get emotional about it.
Right.
And this got brought to home to me very, very dearly here a couple of years ago in the middle of COVID. IRS screwed up on my business taxes. So being the expert, I just figured I'd call them up and explain where they screwed up.
Right.
Well, I got this IRS
Sassy person.
Officer, a revenue officer, not an agent. And he didn't want to listen to me. And I had the law. I quoted him both the law and the IRS Internal Revenue Manual.
Wow.
What he's required to do. And he wouldn't do it. And my voice got louder and louder. And I'm now shouting at this person over the phone. In the back of my mind, I'm going, Charles, don't do this. Don't do this. This isn't helping. But I got very emotional about it and upset and was yelling at him. And he proceeded to then do something he shouldn't have done and file a lien on my business.
What? Now he got personal.
Yeah. He took offense to my shouting at him, and he got nasty and violated IRS rules and filed a lien.
Wow.
It took me about 2 weeks because of COVID to get a hold of his boss, who said, oh, Mr. Reed, this shouldn't have happened. We'll take care of it. And it all went away.
Yeah. But
I also knew how to get a hold of his boss. We had one that took 9 years, and I ended up calling the chief of appeals in D.C., who I'd met, being on the IRS Advisory Council. and said, this guy won't return my calls. I've been trying to get a hold of him for a year. She said, I'll have him call you. He called me that afternoon.
Wow.
And a problem where they were trying to get $95,000 from my client in penalties and interest turned into a $400 refund.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my 5-star wins.
I know that's right. Oh my goodness. You turned that all the way around.
Yeah. Don't talk to the IRS if you can avoid it. Let your professional do it. Let your CPA, let your payroll provider, if they have a CPA on staff, do it for you, because you will get emotional about it, and that doesn't help.
No. Yeah. Then the stress that comes along with that, we need to be running our businesses and producing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is one of those things you can outsource easily, inexpensively to somebody. We do thousands of clients, millions and millions and millions of dollars of money. Move this. We have special relationships with our banks. The IRS knows who we are. We work with these things all the time. We're good at it.
Yeah.
And we can do it for a pittance compared to the time you'd have to spend as an entrepreneur trying to do your payroll.
Yes.
I outsourced payroll long before I went into the payroll business. It's just not worth doing it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Because we'll be trying to do something on Sunday, trying not to do it. Then here comes a 7-day work week again. And then running into problems, here comes, that it just infiltrates, in our standard operations and working with our own clients. So with that said, you were talking about your thousands of clients. So are you limited to a region, or can you have clients across the U.S. or how does that work?
We're a national firm. We moved into the internet in the 90s and started picking up clients around the country.
Okay.
So we operate in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. We don't do Puerto Rico because of the language problem and the different forms, and we don't do the Virgin Islands. That's a whole different can of worms. But anywhere in the U.S., the 50 states in the district, we have clients.
Okay. Awesome. That's awesome. So let's just keep that going. The follow up from there, 10 reasons why we should outsource. You kind of talked about it a little bit with some of the challenges and things.
Yeah. I mean, it's inexpensive. It's time saving. It's privacy. It's security. It is a professional helping you. We contact our clients every week or two with tidbits and information that they need to be aware of. Obviously I wrote the book and we have all that available and all that information for our clients. We can help them with benefits. We can help them with HR. We can help with HR questions. I get those calls weekly or more often. One of my employees said, I have to do this. No, under the law, you don't have to do that. Okay. They have misread it. Somebody's been telling them stuff that's not true. No, you don't have to do that. Yes, you can fire them. It is an at-will state. No, you don't have to pay them today, except in California, and so on and so forth. So we work with our clients constantly and provide them information and knowledge, because again, if you don't know what you don't know. Right. And so we try to keep our clients out of those problems. There's a couple of things, though, you ought to consider, though. One of which is timekeeping. If you don't have a time clock, and if you're a very small firm, and I mean you're there and you see them come in and leave, and you mark it down, you don't need a time clock. But if you don't mark it down and they don't sign off on it, and they go to the state labor board and said, I worked all these hours, and here's my record of it, you're going to have to pay them for those hours if you didn't.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they will take the employee's word and record unless you have something internally where they have agreed that that's the hours they've worked. So a time clock or a timekeeping system, you can actually have it on the computer where they can come in and sign out. We have geofencing where if they drive onto the company premises, it logs them in. When they drive off, it logs them out. So it's based on their phone. So there's a lot of things that can be done biometric.
Okay.
I had an imaging firm, did medical imaging, and they didn't think they needed a biometric clock. They had just a clock people punched in and out on.
Okay.
It was one of the back corridors, and I said to Joanne, there's buddy punching going on and so on. She said, "Oh no, nobody would do that." I said, "Okay, let's take a little hidden camera up there, point at the clock, and watch that." At the end of the week, she fired 3 people because they were buddy punching their friends and bought a biometric clock. So they have to put their thumbprint on it to get logged in, and saved her a lot of money. So there's a lot of things that, if you don't think about it and you're not experiencing it, believe me, maybe not your employees, but for a lot of clients, they have employees that will take advantage of them. Now, I don't have any that do that to me, but other clients.
Right. Oh my goodness. I don't have any employees, but that's something to look out for, the processes. We always need to be on top of that. And that benefits that those types of things actually protects the employee as well as the employer.
Yes. Another thing that your entrepreneurs, when they go to hire somebody, they need to do is a handbook.
Okay.
With the rules, because that's an agreement between you and your employees. And it lays out vacation, holidays, sick pay, what they're expected to do, what'll get them terminated, what'll get them promoted, maybe, what their responsibilities are. It's the laying out of what you expect from your employees and what they can expect from you. And if you don't have that, then it's an argument, and the labor board in your state will come down on the side of your employees. That's their job, is to protect the employees, not to protect the employer. So if you've got a policy that, as we do, we don't pay for unused vacation at termination.
Okay.
That's just not something I believe in. It's a benefit, and it's to be used during the year. And if you've got some left over and you quit, well, you're not working for me anymore. Why should I be paying you?
Right.
That's just my thing. But if you don't have that, then you have an argument whether or not you should pay it or not with the labor board, and you will probably lose. Some states specify that you will lose unless it's in the handbook. Okay. And some states, you've got to pay it regardless. Our policy on bereavement leave is simple. Our employees take whatever they need for bereavement leave. Okay. Whether that's 3 days or 3 weeks. My employees are too valuable to me. If they need, one of my ladies, her father died, and she had to take care of all that and deal with the family and the funeral and everything else. And it took her a couple of weeks. Okay. I'm going to tell her she has to come back after 3 days? Yeah. No, I can't do that. Am I going to dock her? Right. So she gets upset and quits. The cost of 2 weeks of paying her is far, far less than the cost of hiring somebody new. Absolutely. So, and I don't want to force people to come back when they're not ready. That's in our policy. So would there be, I know we're thinking about people that take advantage of something like that. Is there an unwritten rule of if they want to just drag this out 2 or 3 months or? Okay. No, I haven't had it happen yet. I'm sure at some point it'll happen, and we'll address it then. Yeah, it's still an at-will state, and so on. And if somebody takes advantage of me, I'll pay the unemployment. Yeah, but it hasn't happened, and we don't have very much turnover. I haven't had to hire anybody in about 3 years. That's awesome. And that goes to, speaks to, the top down, the relationships, the culture of the organization, the trust level, the freedoms, and just how, your interpersonal communications with folks. Absolutely. And so the handbook is what lays that out. and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. In the very beginning, I put that flip-flops were just unacceptable footwear. And we had arguments for years, what was a flip-flop and what was a heelless sandal. And I finally gave up, and the girls wear whatever they want. I've given up trying to be the fashion arbitrator. Okay.
I know that's right. And then they have these new shoes that the guys and the girls wear called slides. And I was like, every time I see them, it looks like to me, it's a house slipper.
It's a flip-flop. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't care what you want to call them. They're flip-flops. It's a shower shoe.
Exactly. Oh my God, we could probably go for hours talking about employment rules and HR and what's this and what's that. But give us some, as we get closer to the end, what would be that solid advice that you'd want to leave us with?
As an entrepreneur, I've got a couple, one of which is for all your entrepreneurs out there and all your small business. And I stole it from Bill Gates. People will overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade.
Wow.
It's a marathon. It's day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It took me years to get where I wanted to be, but we're successful and profitable and we love it. So it's a long-term thing. But in terms of payroll directly, I recommend you outsource it. It's just, it's a pittance, and it just solves immense problems. And if you outsource it to a service bureau like us, then there's just things you don't have to worry about anymore. And Audrey, one thing I'd like to do is for your listeners, I'd like to offer them a copy of my newest book, the Payroll Book.
Oh, awesome.
A guide for small business and startups. If they will go to the payroll-book.com, the website, use the discount code podcast, we will ship them free of cost, no charge at all, a copy of the book.
That is fantastic. Shop Squad, you have got to take advantage of that. Whether you have employees or not, you may be thinking about employees down the road as your business is growing. This would be an awesome resource to have. So that's thepayrollbook.com. And you said the password or the code is podcast.
Discount code podcast. No charge. We cover the postage and shipping and handling. As long as supplies last, we'll ship your listeners a copy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles. I really appreciate that. And thanks for being here. So we'll make sure that, we get your website on there as well, getpayroll.com, because I'm sure some of us can utilize your services. And thanks for the advice that you gave us today and the different types of scenarios, because we really need to pay attention to that's a very important part of growing our business as well.
Thank you for listening to The Business Shop. We hope that you were able to glean valuable information from our guest and that you will download and share this podcast. Your rating and review is much appreciated. To go deeper with our guests, please visit their website and social channels. To learn more about us, please visit businessshop.info or altogether.biz, where we will help you expand your brand.